It's still greater in Decatur, despite DecaturFC's last match of the season falling victim to the Georgia weather. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Five Takes Femenil, our show covering the women's game at the local level and beyond. My name is Glenn Paisan, and joining me today is a woman who gives legal advice as well as she does fashion tips to drag queens.
I don't know if that's a diss on my lawyering or my makeup.
I think it's a compliment. I think it's a compliment to both. It's Amy Anna Marie Jordan. Hi.
Hey, don't tell everybody my secret identity.
It's already blown. Your cover's already blown. And also joining today is a woman who would probably just kill at an Atlanta-themed trivia night. I'm learning. Anything Atlanta history themed, she would probably be able to. Any obscure references, if anybody wants to throw that together, Jennifer will probably be your ringer in that.
You know, it's never the right obscure, random, factoid knowledge thing that ever gets me winning at trivia.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that you and the people at Atlas Obscura are in like a mind meld, and so like you just all.
Okay, Atlas Obscura is literally like the greatest travel log invention ever on the planet, and the amount of really weird and cool out there. You know, some of it's mainstream, some of it's not, but like it's got something for everybody, and I love it for that. I love all the woolly and weird in there. It's great.
I've now put on my list to look at the Atlas Obscura for Atlanta if there is one, and we'll
there is one.
My Gen trivia knowledge using that.
There is one. Tiny Doors are in there. The Doll's
Tiny
Head
Doors, yeah.
Yeah, the Doll's Head Trail is one that I remember being in there. I think Ria's Bluebird was on there for Gastro Obscura. They have some solid listings.
That's a solid shout out, Doll's Head Trail. All right, moving on from creepy Atlanta.
Yay! It's not quite Halloween. I wish it was.
No, but I'll tell you what. I have already seen some Halloween decorations hitting stores already. I'm not joking with you.
God.
But
well, I mean, everybody's doing Black Friday and July sales now. It's to compete with Amazon Prime Day. So if it's Thanksgiving now, I guess that gives us. Today's June 30th, so that gives us 24 shopping days until Christmas in July.
Sure.
Amy's like, "What's wrong with you?"
We digress.
Amy, why are you making faces? Because
I don't put my Christmas tree up until the day after Thanksgiving. Okay.
No, but this
gets no respect.
I blame this derailment on myself. This is all my fault.
Yes. All right, moving on.
Moving on to the match that wasn't. Unfortunately, really heartbreaking stuff. We were all psyched. We were all pumped for the last regular season match of the season. It did look like we were going to hit that 3,000 number. The league sent a couple people down for a national broadcast to really pump this thing up. Like, the momentum was there. People were hyped. People were excited. And then Georgia weather just made it impossible. And because of the logistics of trying to reschedule at the end of a season when a lot of these players are going back to their respective clubs or colleges, because it's just a brief summer league, the match was just straight up canceled. And there was no way to reschedule it, and waiting the storm out that apparently flooded Silverbacks Park in 285 and was really bad. Like, Decatur didn't hit that bad till later on, but apparently this thing was nasty. It just wasn't feasible. They waited till about 8:30 and eventually had to call it. And that sucks because everybody worked really hard on this. Everybody, players.
Well, there were a lot of disappointed people walking around downtown, and I know y'all hung out at O'Sullivan's, and I went to Grindhouse. Grindhouse was packed with people who were waiting out this.
There were a lot of Chattanooga fans. I was heartbroken for all of them. That's not exactly down the road.
That's what I was going to say. I think I was. If you have to take something out of it, even though obviously everybody was really disappointed.
Yeah.
I have to say that I was kind of blown away and really impressed given how quickly the weather turned and kind of how things were going. And you're looking at this as, it's a women's semi-pro match and it's a Friday night and there's a lot of other things going on and a lot of stuff. but it was like nobody was going home or even seemed like that bothered by the delay, at least. I'm sure that we lost some people or some people didn't come because of it, but
Yeah.
the ones that were there were like really excited about the match we were going to see. And it was cool to see that kind of support and the number of people that did hang around, notwithstanding notwithstanding the kind of crazy weather. I mean, I think a couple people on their way home told me that they saw bumpers floating on 285. So that's
Yeah,
not an everyday occurrence.
it would have been more of a water polo match than a proper soccer match. So that's
Yeah, I don't
unfortunate.
know how fast that high school field drains, but I
Not
have
that
to
fast.
imagine that
Yeah,
yeah,
not that
it
fast.
must have
Well,
drained.
what I will say is like we wound up hanging out because I'm apparently not allowed to go to downtown Decatur with the boyfriend unless there's brick store pub involved. So we wound up celebrating the brick store's official 28th
Oh,
birthday
cool.
with a complimentary beer toast. So that was cool. How lucky are we? We wound up hanging out there for a minute, and by the time we left, it had stopped raining, and I was, following along similar posts that you saw with the flooding in 285, and pleasantly surprised to see that my drive home was not impaired by much.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so I guess it, ultimately wasn't as horribly bad as it could have been,
No,
but still just kind of poopy to end a
yeah,
season
it
that
does.
really brought so much joy to a lot of people, and was just a great community night out. Not get to have that lovely little last hurrah, because I think just looking around, what was going on down there, I have no doubt in my mind that that attendance record would have been smashed.
Absolutely. And we still saw the girls like pregame. They were all hanging
Yeah.
out at O'Sullivan's. They were signing kits.
We had a young intrepid reporter actually
Yep.
get to speak to one of them. So that was nice. Young Harper spoke to Giselle, who was kind enough, very sweet. I mean, these players, man, I'm just continually just so impressed with how they compose themselves on and off the pitch. And I think they understand the bigger role that they're playing in young girls' lives and the role models that they are. And she was really kind to give Harper almost a full 5 minutes of her time to ask all the questions. And so let's go
And
to
I mean, all the
all the
questions. I
questions.
was so impressed.
Yeah,
Harper prepped all of her
she did so
questions and
well.
then added more onto the sheet while we were
It's true.
waiting,
And Giselle was
and got
patient
all
and
of them.
answered all of them. And they're really good questions. And here is Harper's interview with Giselle asking a million questions.
Hi.
Hi. Um, how do you balance your school, professional soccer, and personal life?
Um, it's definitely more of like an uneven balance, but you just have to love it's just we love all of us love playing soccer and we love what we do, so the rest just comes later. Like when we have free time, um, we'll spend it doing like something else that we love, like going to the beach, hanging out with our friends, working out. And then the school part that comes with loving soccer as well, because you have to take care of your school to play soccer. And yeah, so it was definitely harder when you first start college, but at this point now it's just a breeze.
That's good. Did you always want to be a professional athlete?
Um, I actually don't know. I mean, as long as the opportunity presents itself, then yes, but I definitely want to explore other parts of myself.
How do you resolve conflict on the team given you're only together for such a short season?
We honestly haven't had any conflicts on this team, but yeah, thankfully we haven't had any conflicts on this team.
On my team, we have a lot, especially with one person.
Yeah, I mean, we just all know what we want to get out of it, so we're just all on the same page.
That's good. What's your favorite part of being a professional athlete?
Definitely interacting with the community. It adds another layer of motivation to perform. So that's definitely all of our favorite parts. And winning, of course.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my favorite part.
Right.
What advice do you have for young soccer players?
Just continue to love playing, have fun while you play. Don't get lost in winning or performing. Like that comes after the love, because it's easier to get lost in like living up to expectations, which is important, but also remember why you started playing and that you love to play.
How have your teammates helped you on or off the field?
Definitely just pushing me and each other in practice. Like we're always trying to perform at our best in practice, after practice, like conditioning, working out, being strong, being fit, staying ready for the game. And yeah,
Do you have a favorite pro soccer team?
my favorite pro soccer team is Tottenham Hotspurs in the Premier League. Uh, yeah, no, my family's from there, so that's definitely why they're my favorite.
That's cool. Why do you like soccer?
I like soccer because it is, I mean, I honestly just have always been playing for my whole life, but now that I'm older, it's taught me a lot about character and really like challenging yourself to be a leader on and off the field, being a role model for yourself and for others, and it's fun.
Why and when did you start playing soccer?
I started playing when I was in third grade, I think. I don't remember what age that is, but definitely third grade. And because my parents put me in it, but I continue because I love it. Like it's just I did definitely did a couple other sports, but none I like more than soccer.
Yeah, same with me.
Hmm.
It doesn't get any cuter than that.
Also, like number one, I just want to say that like I'm thrilled that Harper got to interview Giselle, because I know Giselle
That's
was
your
like a
girl.
late season addition, but like with the matches that I get to, I love the energy that she brings. I thought every time she was on the pitch, she was a spark. She was a big
Impressive.
contributor to
To
the
come in
very
mid-season,
very
tail
impressive
end, and do
debut
that.
again. Yeah, against Georgia Impact on the away
Yeah.
match. And I just, she has one of those like on pitch personalities for me, like that. There's some people out there that like they're really fun to watch and they're engaging because they just have that kind of like on-field presence. I think we can all, make, I'm not making a comparison to Miggy, but like
I get you.
Miggy has that on-field kind of presence and personality, whereas some people like, I don't know, Moranchuk just kind of fade into the and we forget that they exist. So, definitely not like, Giselle has kind of one of those like little sparkle, kind of the twinkle in your eye kind of factor. So, that was kind of awesome to see. Thanks, Harper. We really appreciate
Yeah,
you
we're bummed
coming to
that
the
she was gonna
table.
interview more too, but the weather, it just didn't allow for it. But we still had a good time. We've had a great time this season with all the matches. It's been a success. It's still a success. This is still a success. 2 successful seasons in a row, and it's going to be a 3rd successful season. I have no doubt about that, despite it ending the way it did. But Decatur does finish perfect on the season, winning all
We will take
7
that. We like
of their
perfect.
matches, 21 points, an insane goal differential. They finished atop the Southeast Conference Peachtree Division with Chattanooga in second place on 14 points with 4 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses. Then it was Georgia Impact on 8 points, UFA Gunners on 5 points, and Atlanta Fire United on 4 points. The only team that Chattanooga lost to was, in fact, Decatur. Not bad.
Yeah, and Decatur legitimately won both of those matches too. I mean,
And they
was
won their
never
matches in dominating fashion. They won it in gritty, kind of just find the goals however you can fashion. Right now the power rankings are Decatur is 6th. Unfortunately, we do expect that to drop, even though it's not really going to have an impact on anything, and it's only because they can't play their last match. So they may fall out of sixth into seventh, eighth, ninth, or outside the top 10, but we all know where this team truly, truly ranks, and they will stay first in the Southern region. Some top level stats on the year as far as goals.
I want to
Sure,
point
go ahead.
out before you break
Yeah,
down the player stats, like, this was not dependent on one player for all of the offense, right? There was contribution, really across the front, and even from the
yeah.
back
Mm-hmm.
line. You had a lot of different players contributing to the offensive juggernaut that was Decatur FC this season. Um,
Yeah, I think the sort of wrap up point on that is that when you look at the contributions across the field, but then you also look at something like Giselle Daniel coming in
Yep.
midway, contributing both statistically and from a personality standpoint, kind of coming in. It just underscores the class and professionalism with which the team um, held themselves. And
Yeah, they maintain their standards. They maintain them.
yeah, and it goes to show, like, I mean, they seem to have something really special. From we talk a lot about a lack of identity. It seems like they have an identity this kind of early in their development,
Mm-hmm.
from the standpoint of that sort of confident, you know um, they all are ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
I was struck by the player interviews throughout the season and how much um, they spoke really intelligently about what they were doing, but also about their goals and how aligned they were as a team, the trust that they had in one another, um, all up and down the board. It's
It's gonna
just
be
been
it's a good
a
experience for them
pleasure.
to have, to know, hey, this is what having an identity is like. This is what, maintaining that, and the level you have to be at, the consistency you need to play with, for yourself and others. It's only going to serve them well in whatever future careers they have, be it at the collegiate level, continuing with semi-pro, or full on professional. To have this experience, it's going to serve them well. So leading the way with goals is Maggie, natural goal scorer, as Coach Chapman called her. That's true. 6 goals for her. We think about 4, maybe 5 for Dylan Driver. WPSL is tracking her at 4 goals. Sarah Griner, 3 goals. Becky Contreras, 3 goals, who we'll talk about more in a second here. Finally, Sydney Thibodeau with 2 goals, and Giselle Daniels with 2 goals, which is pretty good considering how much time she had with the team, and it was all immediately productive. So, on the Becky news, we can finally announce that her club finally gave us permission to announce themselves that she is an official player of Atlético San Luis down in Mexico, sister club of a little upstart club you might have heard of over in Spain, Atleti Madrid. Big deal. It's huge. And it doesn't happen if Decatur FC isn't there providing these opportunities and pathways for players. It's a massive move. And I hope we'll be able to speak with her again in the coming months, check in with her later this year, next year, and see where her career is going, because that's a massive feather in the cap of Decatur FC. You can take your power rankings and shove it. We got a player going to Atleti. It's just huge, and it should show that you
What's
can do this.
interesting? It's interesting too, because when we sat down with Joel and Graham at the beginning of the season, and we talked about where they're sourcing and where they're scouting from,
Mm-hmm.
and where they're looking around, and how they come together to build a roster for a semi-pro club like this. They talked about international slots and getting inquiries from players from all over,
Yeah,
from not just here in the
yeah.
southeast. So something like this, when you look at growth down the road, some of the things that are in talks with regards to expanding the tier program
Mm-hmm.
of the U.S. women's soccer portfolio, or even moving into, you've got 2 top tier professional women's women's divisions now. Atlanta is a city that has been screaming for a long time for a tier one women's soccer club. If you want proof
This is proof
that
positive.
something like that will work
Yep.
here, and that we're also not, it's not just about, oh yeah, the fans will pack it in for a first team. You can also look at it from a player development
Yep.
progression standpoint, because that's really an integral part of the overall successful business of football.
Players want to play at clubs where they can be provided future opportunities. Here you go.
Yeah.
And this is just a small semi-pro club in Decatur, Georgia. I like trying not to be too hyperbolic about it, but it is a big deal. Yes, like that's huge.
I mean, it's exciting,
Yeah.
right? Like I was really glad that I did get to see Becky play before she left, and we got to have the interview with her that we did.
Yep.
But no, I think it's a big deal. I think it's something where it's really exciting because I think it's good for Decatur, and Becky talked about how good Decatur was for her. And so in that sort of simpatico kind of way, it's really nice to see that here you have, a player that came in and, played her heart out for the club, and she's now rewarded and moving on to other things. And wherever she goes, she'll have always been with Decatur at one point, and
we actually got to
and that
we got to speak to her before she left on her
and
last
you,
match.
and you can't like underscore how cool it is to just know that there is that opportunity there,
Yeah.
because it hasn't always been there.
Yeah.
And so it's cool, and it's cool to see how these girls have really invested in the kids around the city. I mean, we've talked a lot about the Wednesday night lights and some of the other things that the Decatur FC is trying to do for the community. And so, yeah, with Becky moving on, I think that's really good PR for Decatur. But I think Decatur, FC, is really doing a lot to drive that, and it's cool to see what they're building.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for next season. Like truly.
Yeah, it's only going to get bigger and better. Here is Becky talking about that very thing, about what this club has meant to her and the lessons she's going to carry from it, and just her overall gratitude of having this opportunity to play in front of a big fan base, and how that's going to serve her well at her new club and in her future. So here is the interview we did with her weeks ago when she left after her final match. How has this season gone for you so far? How was tonight? How's the crowd? How's it all been? And what's this experience been like over the past year and a half as you now take off to
it's been
go
super
conquer
fun.
the world?
Yeah, we definitely feel the crowds, and a bunch of people come out. It makes a big difference. And I had so much fun this season and last season. We have some new faces this season. I think they've helped us a lot, and even the same ones from last season. It's nice to see returning faces and new friends, that people that we didn't even know before. And like some of us, we literally played against each other. Like there's a bunch of girls in the SEC, and I played against them. And before we maybe weren't cool, but like for example, last summer I played against some, and then when I see them, it's like, hey, So I think this club has done a lot of good things, and I think it brings a lot of talented girls together to do some great things.
It's just shocking to us how well you guys play together. You've only been together a few weeks.
Yeah.
It really looks like, especially compared to the teams you're playing, that you've been playing together a lot longer, and you haven't. What do you attribute that to? Like, what is this cohesion? How are you guys achieving that? Is it all coaching? Is it just the right mix of players? What do you think it is? What makes this group so special?
I think it's a combination of everything. I think that we have just a bunch of talented girls, and that all of us come together, and I think that with the coaching, they help, and we have fun at practice. Like us having fun at practice, like whatever we do in practice really shows in the games. And luckily, like some of us, like for example, me, Dylan, and Sydney, we all play together at Auburn. So sometimes it's nice because like I know what they're gonna do, and like obviously we have that advantage against other clubs. And some of these girls have been playing travel ball together since they were like 10, 11. Like I know Jasmine, Micah, some of those girls have been playing together for a long time. So it's just a combination of everything.
So everybody is to an extent used to changes and playing with different people, and
Yes.
just being able to have to adapt.
Yes, exactly. And I think even the girls, for example, like those were just a few examples of us that, we gel together because we already know how we play. But at the same time, like some of these girls, I've never even seen them in my life. And then you give us 2 weeks and now we're here playing together. I think it's just a combination of everything, the coaching, the talent, and just us working hard and wanting to play together and win.
I hope you adapt quickly to your next club.
Thank you.
I'm sure you will. And, don't be a stranger. Stay in touch. And we'd love to check in with you, a few months, a year from now, and see where your career has gone.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, it's incredible. Nothing but the best for her. I hope she just has loads of success down there and takes another step and another step and another step. And then, maybe she's given an interview over in Mexico or over in Spain, and she mentions this little town called Decatur, Georgia. It puts us on the map a little bit more because that's how you build it, right? You provide opportunities, players take their opportunities, and then another player says, oh, I can get an opportunity there too. And it keeps building.
I realize I'm yawning, but it is really like super exciting to kind of be here for hey, I know that.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
And then, at some point in time in the next couple of years, we're going to see, players not just like Becky, but, there's a lot of players, and I get it. Like it's a small percentage, but there's a lot of players here that have potential, and it's really cool to, and again, if this is the path that they want for their lives, like, how fun is it to get to kind of watch them, going in from the ground up.
Yeah. I think it's also exciting from a community aspect because Georgia is so very rich in soccer talent, and we know that. And so now you have another local outlet in addition to the Impact, and some of the and you've got other
and all the other teams around the region in the South,
and making opportunities for girls to go from club and have have an opportunity to improve and hone their skills and get a feel for what it is to be a pro while also it's a really good opportunity all around for young women and young women's sports.
All right. So finishing on the season, right now they have them at 6, but they are probably going to drop. The national rankings are Columbus Eagles, FC up in the Greater Lakes Conference in the Greater River Division. They are number 1. Oklahoma City FC in the Midwest Conference. They are number 2. Pensacola FC in the Gulf Coast Conference, number 3. 865 Alliance Southeast in the Conference Pioneer Division. Southeast Conference Pioneer Division. They are 4th. They're in Knoxville, and it's their first year. So pretty impressive for them. Kind of going the way of DecaturFC and the momentum that they've got. Very cool to see. And Portland Thorns, FC 2. They are number 5, and then Decatur at 6. But like we said, that's probably going to change. But that's just a consequence of not being able to have the 3 more points, which they probably would have gotten. Maybe they should just give it to them. Yeah. Tremendous season. We had a lot of fun covering the team. Super grateful to Joel and to Gareth, to all the players, to Coach Chapman, for giving us the access and providing us with entertainment, with a good team to watch that wins and plays cohesive football, and it's just a pleasure to be around and a pleasure to watch. It's been a delight.
And also, I apologize for mispronouncing Gareth's name before, but seriously, thank you. What an opportunity this was for us.
Yeah.
To get to dive into covering the team and the access that you've given us, and it's really cool. It's not something I think any of us ever thought we'd have the opportunity to do.
No, even just a couple years ago, we didn't even know we would have this. We wanted it, like you said. City's crying out for it. So we got this.
It's really been a lot. It's really been a lot of fun. We met some lovely people. The team over there is great, and ultimately it is all about community.
Yeah.
Right. And so to have the opportunity to grow and expand, this community of fabulousness that is the Atlanta soccer family, it's great. And we were really thrilled to be a little part of that.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you guys.
All right. Some other news. Let's go over to another team that wins, US Women. Even though, shout out US Men, Matt Freese, getting it done barely, skin of our teeth against
he did his best impression of Alyssa Nair.
Yes, he did. Save 3 penalties, so that's very good. But the US Women, back to back 4-0 wins. That's got to be some kind of a record. It has to be. When was the last time a team won 3 4-0s in a row
I don't
for
know.
club or
The USA
country.
women were pretty dominant in
Gosh.
the beginning, so
Yeah.
there's some, old school USA women's stats I'm sure that are probably absurd.
Fair, true. But
But
now the game's even more
um,
competitive because,
but now that the
yeah.
game's generally being more competitive, it is nice to see us firing on all
Mm-hmm.
cylinders, doing to the teams that we play what we should be
Right.
doing to those teams. All respect to Jamaica and the Republic of Ireland, but that's what
That's
we
what we
should
should be
be
doing.
performing at. If we are where the USA women have set their standard. Um, and I have to say that I am thrilled for one Lynn Biandolo.
Yeah.
I was still taking some getting used to the last name. Um, Getting the captain's armband and a goal, and it was a heck of a play. I mean,
That was against
bang
the
bang,
second game
multi touch.
for
Yeah,
against
the
Ireland.
second Republic of
Yeah,
Ireland. Yeah.
pretty cool.
Um,
Had a couple.
it's also been really cool to see all the new young
Yeah,
talent
I
and
was just
all
gonna
the
say.
different people that are being brought in and
Yeah,
out
Izzy
by
Rodriguez debut goal. Yasmin Ryan, not her debut, but first goal for USA. And then you got the holdover. Alyssa Thompson doing her thing. Goal in each game. Rose Lavelle is back. Please stay healthy. Please stay healthy. Skyline Messi. Please, please, please. You know,
Skyline Messi.
Yeah. It was
Wow.
very, very cool to hear the fans chanting at the Cincinnati Stadium, "We want Rose, we want Rose." That was very cool. I think she is. I will always be an Alex Morgan stan, you know. But she's my girl right now. As far as the current player crop, I love her. I love that she's got a little scrappy dog in her. She's just fun. She's fun to watch. She's joyous. She's good. This whole team is good, and they have arguably, or there's no argument, the best coach in the women's game currently.
So
Yes,
Absolutely.
no
It
contest.
is.
No contest.
No, well,
Oh,
there are a
the
couple
young
of
woman down
other
in right has
excellent
something to say.
coaches in the women's
For sure.
game. The England coach from the Netherlands,
Okay.
she's
No disrespect.
excellent.
Fair.
But I think that Emma
Level above.
has edged her out in
'Cause she's done
in
it
my
for club
perspective.
and
I'm
country.
a biased, USA.
She's done it for club and country. She was at Chelsea forever, and she goes coaches a national team for the first time, and it has some pretty immediate success. There is her male counterpart is, well, we'll see. Maybe he'll get a Gold Cup. Is struggling a bit more. Maybe not a fair apples to apples comparison in terms of the talent available and players wanting to play.
So
But
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
I want to pose it to both of
Okay.
you guys here.
Okay.
Why is it that Emma's come in
Mm-hmm.
here in a year and a half, right? Year and a half, right? We've had her for a year and a half. And the U.S. women's national team now all of a sudden has an identity again. There is a very clear, even with all the player substitution, and she's gone out, she's given a lot of different people
Yes.
a lot of looks, and we're not seeing and she's not, way further away from a World Cup cycle than
I
the men's
think
national team is.
I think what
Wait,
Go
let me
ahead.
finish my
No, go
question.
ahead.
Poch has had about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
The U.S. men's team has no idea who the hell they are.
I think I have an easy answer for you. And I'm surprised you didn't already think of it. One of them has been watching DecaturFC. One has not. But this is how you do it. But this is how you do it, right? I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know. Maybe there was already a bit of a bond there. I'm not sure how she's been able to just hit the ground running. Some people just have that magic in them and are just really great communicators and can motivate, and they just got it. And I think Emma's just got it. Players coach, and people want to play for her, run through a brick wall for her. And you've got a history of success too. That helps. When you've got 4 World Cups under your belt, that helps. That helps a lot.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, sorry, Glenn, you're just taking all the words out of my mouth, so I'm having to reformulate them.
Go ahead.
But first of all, yes, I think that it's pretty clear that Emma is I don't know, absolute wizard when it comes to player psychology and getting the most out of the players and kind of setting a tone in a locker room
Mm.
and getting their trust.
Mm.
I remember that pretty shortly after she took over, there was some controversy around some comments that were made from I've Albert,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
a brouhaha that could have really turned the locker room into a pretty toxic place. Could have for good reasons, right? And whatever, right? Like there could be feelings, there could be all these things. And I remember that, she was so in command of that situation and so of her mind on what needed to happen. And it was like a blip on the radar that I think for other coaches that don't know how to manage a locker room in the way that she seems to be able to, like, could have caused issues. And we knew that because going into that, the US women's national team would have been being talked about. Like, they're old, the chemistry is not good anymore, what's going on, where is this winning mentality, like talking about the 4 World Cups, like where was that? It had like evaporated. And yes, it is 100% easier to maybe get people to buy in when you've been there before, which is a struggle that the US men's national team and every team that's never been there before is just going to have to, figure out eventually if they're ever going to really compete. But yeah, for me it's Emma. It's the psychology. Like, she just gives a masterclass in what
Mm.
a difference the mental game
She
makes.
comes from
It's
success too. I mean, all she did was win at Chelsea. This is all she did. So she's
I think
confident.
I think I think too, like what I see here is not, that thing that we were talking about before the jump about honoring Atlanta's
Mm.
pride history,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's honoring the history and the traditions of the US women's national team that we have here. She's not saying, "Oh yeah, well, we won all these World Cups, blah blah blah." But she has definitely, at least from my inexperienced eye looking at it, brought new style, brought new tactics. She's got these players playing in maybe some slightly different positions. They're attacking the balls in different ways. They're doing different things. So it's not the same, we're not turning back the clock to 1998, right?
That's true. Hmm.
That's my point. And
Okay.
that's what we're like, I feel like the biggest difference here is she's not resting on the laurels, right? Like, she
Mm-mm.
really is pushing this side into a new direction, and like I said, a new identity entirely, like, but it's now all of a sudden it's becoming an easily recognizable play style.
Mm.
The other thing that she's doing that I think is just so smart, especially because it's been wildly successful, is bringing in so many new players into the player pool and really expanding that pool. And she's talked about how she wants to have a deep pool of players that know the style, know the identity, know what we want. And so that we don't find ourselves in a position again where it feels like, we've lost one player going into the World Cup, in Julie Ertz, and it's like our entire identity was
No, it feels like everybody's bought
nuked.
in a bit more. It didn't work under Flacco.
Yeah.
It just didn't.
Which is ironic because Vlaco is who those girls
Players
Right,
wanted.
I know.
The players wanted, in the same vein that the men's players wanted Greg.
Correct, but not that. Well, we'll see if they can
It's
win the
just
Gold Cup
I'll
here,
say
maybe.
that
the dichotomy
Yeah.
is just fascinating.
Yeah.
I'll say one other difference though between what Emma is walking into versus Pochettino, and this is with all respect to Pochettino, who, candidly, like you guys know, I don't really follow, like, I only have so many leagues I can follow, and I tend to follow in my spare time more of the women's game. And I so but the thing that's also cool about Emma is that even though she's not American, she still is American in the sense that, like, she really has talked a lot about how much she loves this country gave her opportunities, like, etc. And I feel like while I'm not somebody that says you have to be managed by somebody who is your nationality, etc., like, from an American viewpoint, I think that that does help.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and I think that she has that a little
She
bit
has
over
experience here
Pochettino
outside
in
of
that
the
she
country.
gets kind
Yeah.
of maybe the American
Yeah.
mentality a little bit
Yeah.
more and more quickly. And I think, whereas Pochettino, I think, is having to kind of change the culture and kind of adapt
Okay.
a little
Okay.
more.
I would
Just my thoughts.
actually totally buy into that because I think Pochettino very possibly sees this as a temporary gig.
Oh
It
yeah.
was an 18 month
Oh yeah.
18-month
Oh yeah.
gig. get them through the World Cup,
Yeah.
and then go off to your next, big club job or whatever
Oh,
it is
yeah,
that you're going to
for
do.
sure.
Whereas, I think Emma plans to be here for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know, tenure, but a long time.
However long she decides she's not bored doing this.
Pretty much, because I can't see a universe, given her track record and the success she's currently having, unless you have a major crash and burn where, I mean, we're talking don't get out of group kind of crash and burn.
Seems
in
unlikely.
27. I don't see her I don't see her going anywhere. And I don't really get vibes from her that she wants to go anywhere, which is so, and maybe that's what it is, because the men's side is so much more transient, especially from the standpoint of national teams. There are not
We're also not the pinnacle of jobs there, whereas Emma, arguably the U.S. women's national team job is got to be close to the top, if not the top women's job. Would you guys?
I mean, it would be
It's
England,
up there. I mean, there are other good jobs
It would
now.
be a top. It's
up there.
It is. It's
a top job.
Us, England, Netherlands, like
It's a top 5 job. You sure?
Yeah, top
Yeah.
five.
Yeah,
sure
I
it
mean,
is.
it's
Yeah, no
definitely
question.
like, I mean, it's you could argue between whether or not it's Man City or Liverpool or Chelsea, if that's the equivalent.
Yeah. But it's a top job.
Sure.
Yeah.
They will play again on Wednesday against Canada. That should be a good match. It's actually a doubleheader. Got the men playing at 7, and against Guatemala, I do believe, who beat Canada on the men's side. Crazy, also in penalties. They play at 7. The women play at 7:30. It is another friendly, so put up your second screen. That is on TNT or True TV or Universo if you want the Spanish broadcast. Wednesday night at 7:30 against Canada. Should be another good match. I would not expect a 4-0. I don't think so. I think this is going to be a little, no disrespect to Ireland, but a bit stiffer. But look, they took on China well too. So, yeah, and Jamaica, and those are good teams. Those are good teams. Canada's a good team too, and we'll see what happens.
I really, I have a very, and this may be because I work in the region. It might be what's oh my gosh, Washington's. I never get her name right. Sinai.
Yeah.
Soleil Washington. Love her. I got to see her play. I got to see her sub on live in 2023. I got a real soft spot for the Reggae Girls and the trials and tribulations that they have gone through just to actually be able to show up to play in some of these things.
Yeah, didn't they need like a GoFundMe not that long ago?
They did. Their federation, look, the shenanigans that go on financially with respect to the women's national federations are still horrifying.
Yeah.
We can have all the Me Too arguments about equitable pay and facilities and whatever that we want, and there are certainly strides being made in that direction. But like when you have players in African federations or in island nation federations, and likewise where the players are demanding or begging FIFA to literally deposit their prize money into their accounts personally because the federations will not pay their players. We still have a long way to go here. And for the Reggae Girls to actually have the means to be able to travel and participate in tournaments is great to see, because they were not going to be able to go to the World Cup a couple of years ago unless Bob Marley's daughter, Rita, had not shown up with a massive donation that, if I remember correctly, was somewhere around $100,000 or so to get them funded to go all the way over to Australia. So, and it's not for lack of quality, because a lot of those sides are playing professionally in really good leagues.
No, it's true. Yeah.
So there's a lot of talent on that club. So I had a little soft spot for the Reggae Girls, just because I think they play a really fun style of play to watch. It's fast, and it's kind of Barbara Banda light. So I enjoy that.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that kind of about does it for the season with Decatur FC. We'll be back, and we'll have more updates on the women's national team and some other women-centric things in the future. And we will be back next year for the 3rd season of Decatur FC, and it's only going to get bigger and better from here. Another successful season. We're really happy for that. It is a bummer to not play the last match, but still a success. So thank you very much for listening and supporting this show and Decatur FC and the WPSL, women's sports in general around the city, state, country, world, universe. We really appreciate it. It is an important thing to do.
We don't have to wait another 16 years before we get a top tier women's match in this town.
I don't think so. I think the U.S.
We had so much fun at
US
She Believes Cup last year. Like
U.S. soccer is based here now. We're gonna get them.
We're getting these Club World Cups, and we're getting all, we're getting World Cup and whatever. But like, I still want some women's action. I like the ladies. Just saying.
Hopefully, we'll get one day Division 1 NWSL. Maybe. I think the support is there. Need to find a venue. That doesn't plan to tear their field up immediately after the end of the season, so we can't play a championship match in Decatur. That was a bit of a bummer. There was the possibility of playing a match this coming week, but logistics, it just couldn't happen. So unfortunately for Decatur, but fortunately for the other teams and the league in general, the championship match in the Southeast Conference is still going to be played. It will be played at Finley Stadium, though. Chattanooga versus versus Nashville Rhythm. And that is, I believe, this Wednesday or Thursday, July 3rd. So if you're in the area or you feel so inclined to go up to Chattanooga and support the women, please do so. I hope Chattanooga fans and Nashville fans will pack out Finley Stadium. I hope so. The tickets I looked still very reasonable. They're around $10, just like they were here. So go support that. It is a bummer that we don't get to play it, but rising tide lifts all boats. That type of mentality, yeah?
Yeah. It's great exposure for the league.
For sure.
And
remember, if you're not going and you want to stream the match, you can still watch it on the National Soccer Network for free on YouTube, as well as all the other lower league teams around the country.
We like free.
Yeah, we do like free. We like watching free, but we want our players to be paid and not have to play for free. That is the goal, and not have to rely on GoFundMes and daughters of famous musicians in order to travel to go compete and make a career for themselves. But it's changing little bit by little bit, not as fast as we would want it to, but it is changing for the better, and it's a good thing to see. And DecaturFC is a part of that, and it's cool that we get to be a small part of that as well. And if you went to any of the matches, you were also a small part of that. You were a brick, as Amy is fond of saying. All right, y'all. Thank you very much for listening and all the support. We will see you much later in Decatur.
Until next year, be brave, be bold.
For the black and gold.